Good afternoon. Dr. Cremens here again. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on the syllabus today. So before I get started, take a look in your Blackboard, either open up the syllabus, you can print out a copy. I actually have a printed copy here so that I don't have to keep looking back to my computer. So we're going to maybe do this the old-fashioned way, the way I normally would do it in an in-person class, so that you can walk through this. And my goal really is just to show you the highlights, so that way you can look through it. You can send me any questions that you have. Any questions that you have on the syllabus are probably questions that will help other students in the class. So don't be afraid to ask anything. Again, there's a lot of information on here, some of which is important immediately, some of which you're really not going to need until later on in the semester. So I'll walk you through and give you some ideas of what to look for here as you go through the document. So just to get started, on the very first page, you're going to see some information about me. So the first thing I want to mention is that you should always feel comfortable sending me emails, as I just said, with any sorts of questions at all. So my Harper email is here at the very top of the syllabus. So any questions, send them along to me. If you want to set up a video meeting, a video session, and talk in person about a question that you have, that's also easy to do. I typically use Zoom. We also use WebEx is the other platform that we typically use at Harper, but either one is fine. I'm a little more familiar with Zoom, but WebEx also works great. So that information is there. What I'd also like to mention before I even get any further into this is about online office hours. If you send me an email between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., so regular work hours, you're going to get an email back from me pretty quickly. I'm very fast. I'm working on the computer most of the day, either working on these classes, doing videos, doing, meetings and sessions, working on my own projects. So I respond very, very quickly. It's rare that I don't get back to someone within a couple of hours of an email being sent. Usually it's a lot quicker than that. It sometimes just depends on the other work that I'm doing, particularly as we get into the semester and I'm grading papers. I set aside some time so that I can just focus on the grading and response process. But I respond very quickly. So that's why you'll notice with my syllabus, it says that I'm available pretty much from 9 to 5. Okay, send me an email. I'll get back to you. Now, after 5 o'clock, I typically try to avoid checking my work email in the evenings, and that's partly a function of when I'm normally teaching in-person classes. I'm on campus pretty early in the morning, and I'm a lot sharper earlier in the day than I am later on. Now, if you send me an email in the evening, I'm going to get right back to you the next morning, so don't worry about that. And I do occasionally check my work email in the evenings, but typically after 5 o'clock, I try to shut that down so I can make dinner and feed the cat and get a little bit away from the computer. But again, please email me. I'm very, very rapid in responding. Some of the other stuff on the first couple of pages is just some details about me. If there's a photograph on there, you can read that over on your own. I want to talk next, though, about these online lectures and videos. Those will always be posted. There's a dedicated folder for them on Blackboard, so you can take a look at that when you get a chance. And I typically will post at least 2 videos a week. It really, again, depends on where we are in the semester. There'll be videos explaining the assignments, videos where I'm not just here in my office at home. I'll go outside a little bit so that you're not just seeing me in front of my wall of books here in the background. We will do some live sessions. Now, remember, these are asynchronous classes, so that means anything that we do live, I'll make sure that I've documented everything that we talked about. I want to give students that want the opportunity to have that face-to-face interaction to have it, okay? But those are not required. They are optional. If you want to sign on, you can. I am going to do some very brief introductory live sessions on the 24th, the very first day of class, and I'll be sending out an email about that later today. But again, those sessions are recorded. Anything I talk about will be not only documented on Blackboard, but you'll also see some notes on those sessions, either in the announcement section or also in the reading and writing assignment section. So if you can't make something, if you can't make a live in-person kind of discussion or conversation, don't worry about it. Again, it's an asynchronous class, but I do want to build in some opportunities for live, face-to-face interaction if you're interested in doing that. Now, having said that, typically those live sessions that I may do once in a while, they'll typically be no longer than 20 to 30 minutes. I have tried to log them out or schedule them in slots that would roughly fall along the lines of what these classes would have been like had we met in person. So that means most live sessions that I do, again, if you want to sign on for them, would be on weekday mornings, again, from Monday through Thursday. On your syllabus, you'll see what time slots I would use for those sessions. And again, they're not required. They're not going to happen every Tuesday or Thursday or every Monday and Wednesday, but they will be available, and I'll send out an email and send out some more information about that. But again, it is an asynchronous class, which, as I said in the introductory video a couple of days ago, means that you have access to these videos anytime that you need them, as I post them week to week, and I talk about the assignments, so that you can go and take this class and do the work for it at a time that fits your schedule, because I know we all have a lot of different responsibilities, especially now under the current circumstances that we're living through. So I want to make this as accessible for you as possible. So to kind of continue along here with the syllabus, all of the readings are already posted on Blackboard in the readings folder. So you don't have to purchase any books for the class. There's either PDF scans of certain readings, or there's links to online reading. So start getting familiar with those. On the syllabus in a few minutes, you'll see where those readings fall over the course of the semester. All right, so I'll get to that also in a couple of minutes here. But those are the readings. Now, those are not the only readings. Occasionally I'm going to add things, particularly once I get to know you all better. I'll have a better sense of things that I might want to add to the syllabus, things that I might want to subtract. Anything that I add to the syllabus, though, you will know at least a week ahead of time whether those changes have been made. Okay, so I'm not going to spring anything on you, right? So you'll have a sense of what the basic readings are, and then I'll add things. Sometimes I'll add little videos. Sometimes I'll add other sources that I think are going to be helpful, and a lot of that is from what I'm seeing in your essays. And I try to be flexible in adding, or at times subtracting things that I think are not necessarily going to work for the class. But those readings are on there now. The part that I'm sure you're probably most interested in, on the third page of the syllabus, this is going to give you all the information on how I grade the class. Okay, it's very basic, very simple. It's a 100-point scale. We will have 4 reading quizzes. Now, I typically try to do at least 5 or 6 so that I can drop the lowest reading quiz grade. One other thing to keep in mind is that the reading quizzes are not listed on the syllabus. I also schedule those as we go, and you'll always have at least a week notice of the quizzes and how to submit them as well. Don't worry about that now, because we're going to get to those in the next couple of weeks, the first of the actual reading quizzes. But there'll be 4 that will count. Those are worth 5% each, and those are essentially our participation grade, because they will track how you're doing with the readings, if you're having any trouble understanding them. They're designed to just help you keep track of them, and also they're designed to help you with the papers. So I typically will give a reading quiz typically a week in advance of a paper being due. And so the quiz is designed to sort of help you think about the paper topics and get some ideas together. And you'll see that, again, we'll do those in the next couple of weeks. There are 5 papers for the class. You can take a look at how they're weighted. The first one that's due in a couple of weeks is worth 5%. Most are worth 10%. And then the last one that we do in November, which is the culmination of all these other papers, is worth 25%, okay? And those assignments, as I think I mentioned in the video 2 days ago, will go up as we go forward. So the first paper assignment is already up, but I don't populate all of them. So you're not gonna see paper 2 until we get there, and you won't see paper 3 until about 2 weeks ahead of time, because I want you to have time to think about the current assignment without jumping ahead. So those will be up there again. Typically what I do is every time a paper comes in, that's the day that you'll see the new paper topic being assigned. And again, it's the same thing in my regular in-person classes, same thing. The new paper, or the old paper comes in, I post the new paper, and you start thinking about it while I'm grading the current paper, which then I return to you the week after, which we'll also talk about more here in a second. There's also 2 revisions for the class. So in addition to these original papers, for the midterm and also basically for the final. It's not really a final exam. I do these 2 required revisions. We'll also talk about those as we go forward. So they allow you to look back at the work that you did. They allow you to take a look at what worked, maybe what didn't work, and then you can revise one of the papers at the midterm and another paper at the end of the semester to raise the original grade. It cannot hurt your original grade. So those revision assignments are designed to help you improve on something that had come up earlier in the semester that maybe wasn't your best work. Okay, and again, we'll talk about those also more when we actually get to that midpoint of the semester. If you take a look, you'll also see my grading scale. If you have any questions, let me know. So anytime you get a paper back from me, you're going to see a letter grade on it, and those letter grades have specific numerical equivalents, and those are the numbers that I plug into Blackboard. And if you look at Blackboard, you'll see your grades going in as the semester progresses. So that means you'll have a running average. You'll see exactly how you're doing in the class as we go forward. Of course, again, if you have any questions on any of those assignments or any of the grades, let me know, and I'll be happy to talk with you. All right, one other thing I should mention about letter grades. Occasionally, I will have a letter grade on your paper that's an R, which just means rewrite. That only means that I think the paper needs a little bit more work before I actually put the grade on it. And so between the 2 of us, we'll set up a date for you to get me the revision. That'll give me time also to talk with you a little bit about the changes that I'd like you to make, and then I'll put the grade on it once you do the revision. Again, you can read more about that on here. I use those only occasionally for papers that need a little extra work. They're almost there, but they're not quite there yet, right? All right, next. Policies and procedures are pretty straightforward. I have a section here about papers being turned in on time. I do ask that they are turned in on the time that is listed on the assignment sheet. So that means typically I don't give paper extensions. So the paper is due when it's due, and you'll see how to submit it, and you'll see also the time by which it should be submitted. As soon as I get it, I'll email you back, and you'll know that I have it, and then you'll get it back from me the week after. I don't sit on papers. You can ask any of my old students. If any of you have friends that have taken me before at Harper, they will tell you that I turn back papers the following week. So when a paper comes in on a Wednesday or on a Thursday, it depends what section of the class that you're in, you'll get those back the following week, because I have 3 other classes of 101 that I'm teaching. So I need to make sure that I'm keeping up with that work, and that's my commitment to you. So I also ask you to make sure that you get me those papers on time. Now, if you're struggling, if you're having any problems with the assignment, if you're having outside issues, with work or family that are coming in and preventing you from finishing on time, please let me know as soon as possible. I will be happy to help you. I'll be happy to make suggestions, but just keep that line of communication open so that I know how to help you do the best that you can with these essays. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you have any questions on that policy, let me know. One other thing I want to mention, particularly for a writing class, is that all the work you turn in has to be yours. My plagiarism policy is on here. Unfortunately, I have to give you an F. If you're using sources that are not cited correctly, if you're trying to turn in someone else's work as your own, don't do that. You're better off giving me a paper that's yours that may not be your best work. Might be a little crappy, actually. That's okay, because you're going to have these opportunities to revise anyway. And you got to keep that in mind. So please make sure when you're doing these essays, you're doing them with your own ideas, with your own work. We're going to talk more about citation methods, how to use MLA documentation format. That's one of the purposes of this class. If you don't know how to do that, or if you don't remember, we're going to build up to that by the 2nd and 3rd paper. But like I said, make sure that you contact me. If you're struggling at all with an essay, I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to read a draft. Even if your draft is maybe only a paragraph long and you feel stuck, send it. I'll take a look and I'll give you some more suggestions on it to help you expand. All right? So next is the class schedule. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this you can read over on your own. But I have all the weeks laid out for the semester. So you'll see all the due dates for the papers, all the due dates for the basic writing assignments. As I said, I might add some here and there, but all the readings are already listed. They're already available on Blackboard if you want to get a head start on those. The dates for the midterm revision and the final revision are on here. So again, the only thing that it's not on the schedule would be the reading quizzes, but those I do as we go along. I need to see where we are. I need to see if we need more time for a reading, less time. So take a look at the schedule. What you may want to do because everything is listed on here. All the due dates, any of the holidays we have are here. You may want to compare this to one of your other classes so that you can kind of start scheduling yourself and see, okay, when is the paper for Kremens due as opposed to this lab that I've got to finish for biology, right? So just take a look at it. If anything is not clear, just let me know. You'll notice that what I do is I space out the papers. They're usually due every 2 weeks. At the very beginning of the semester, there's a little bit more of a lag time because we're going to do a little bit more work to prep for the first paper. But once that first paper comes in, every 2 weeks, you'll have another paper, right? In the interim between those paper assignments being due, that's usually when we'll do the reading quizzes. And again, we'll talk about that more as we go on. But everything's there for you and is very detailed. Okay, now after the schedule, you're going to notice a lot of this information, right? There's a lot of information that looks almost like the directions for some kind of piece of home electronics or something. There's just a lot of information on here that you really don't need right now. That's the course description, the Illinois Articulation Agreement, the student learning outcomes. That's there for those of you that may end up transferring to finish your bachelor's degree out of state. Sometimes transfer credit officers want to see that information. They want to know what you took to see if it's the equivalent of the class that they offer at whatever school you've transferred to. So that's basically what that information is. You can read through it on your own, but that's information from my department at Harper, from these Illinois educational agreements that we have with different institutions. So it's a lot of information. It's not really directly relevant to the class, but they do ask us to include that, particularly so that later on down the line when you transfer and you need this and you got to pass this information on to someone at your new school, you'll have it, or you can always email me and ask me for another copy and I'll be happy to send it along to you. We have information here on our equal opportunity statement, our accessibility statement. There's links on the electronic version of the syllabus to the Writing Center, to the library, to health and psychological services, all of those services that are available to you as a Harper student. The library, for example, is going to be doing curbside pickups. So if you need to do any, you need to get any books from them, aside from all the electronic resources that we have, which honestly is mostly what we're using for this class. It's highly unlikely you're going to need to get anything physically from our library. Everything that I use for 101 is online, including any databases, and other electronic material that we'll need for some of the later papers. But if for another class you need to go to the library, that service is going to be available. You can go through the library website and they'll get you the information that you need in the books that you may need to pick up. For us, again, for this class, you're really not going to need it. We're going to use more of the online databases, again, to make things easier and also to familiarize you with that material. And then at the very end, is some information on me. You can read it if you want. I started adding this a couple of years ago to my syllabus. Talks a little bit about my publications. I'm working on my second book now that's going to be out in early 2021. Talks about, my cat, my guitars, some other things that you may or may not be interested in, but it's just a way of getting to know me. And also, it's fair because I'm going to be posting another video shortly where I talk about the very first assignment you're going to do for the class, where I'm going to ask you some questions so that I can get to know you as well. Okay? So, that's 20 minutes. I don't like to do anything longer than that. This is going to be one of the longer videos, actually. That's the basic overview of the syllabus. Please, if you have any questions for me, send me an email. Go through this on your own. I'll be happy to answer questions that you have. All right? So, I hope you're having a good day, having a good afternoon. I'm going to go make another video for you now about the very first assignment. But in the meantime, take care. And again, send me any questions that you have. Talk again in a minute.